Hi, this is TheHande and welcome to Ranking the Soundtrack, The Secret of Monkey Island. Okay, if you've been watching Aqualung Game Reviews channel, you might be aware that Ken introduced this new show on his channel called Ranking the Soundtrack, where he goes through the soundtrack of a classic video game and then ranks the various pieces of music in it according to how he feels they rank. And I really like this idea because I love old video games and I love music, so I decided that I wanted to also give this format a try and do an edition on The Secret of Monkey Island. Now, there's a couple of reasons why I chose The Secret of Monkey Island. Number one is that although I probably could have requested Ken to do this game specifically, I'm not entirely sure Ken has ever actually played The Secret of Monkey Island. Whereas I know the game more or less front to back. I even have a Let's Play of it on my second channel. So because of that, I felt if there was ever going to be a video where I would just shamelessly rip off an idea from Aqualung, this should be it. The second reason why I chose The Secret of Monkey Island was also because there is a relatively small amount of songs to rank. And counting in the ones that I'm excluding from the ranking, there are only 18 pieces of music altogether in the soundtrack of The Secret of Monkey Island. That number jumps up already quite considerably when we go to Monkey Island 2. And the reason for that, of course, is there's a lot of locations in The Secret of Monkey Island where there actually isn't any background music, and also because they reused quite a few of the background tunes throughout the game. So just as with Ken's original version, I'm not going to rank every single song on the soundtrack, but I will be excluding a couple of pieces for various reasons. Now, the way Ken usually does this is that he only ranks the stage themes, because he normally does kind of NES platformers, and excludes any songs that play during the title sequence, or during cutscenes, or during the ending credits, or in between stages, those kinds of pieces. And I did do a version of this ranking where I did also exclude all the pieces of music that didn't take place during actual gameplay, which is to say when you're actually able to make choices and select dialogue options or just move around. But that version of the ranking excluded so many important pieces of music from the soundtrack that in the end I decided not to completely slavishly follow Ken's example, and so I will be including most of the pieces of music, and in the end I included 14 tracks from the original soundtrack. So, well, I decided that I was going to leave out the iconic Monkey Island theme song, the one that you're hearing right now, which plays at the beginning of every single game in the series. I thought this was a good concession, not just because it literally is just the piece of music that plays during the intro credits, but also because people would have probably guessed where this one would have ended up in the rankings. So this at least allows you to stay in suspense for what number one is. I also excluded the jingle that plays over the 4 part screens, even though this is a theme that plays literally in all the other games. Little piece of music, like I said, it's more of a jingle, and comparing it to the full-length songs on the soundtrack really wouldn't have been fair. For the same reason, I'm excluding Q1, which is the music that plays when the ghost ship disappears after LeChuck kidnaps Elena halfway through the game. For the exact same reason, it's just such a short piece of music, it wouldn't really be fair to compare it to the other pieces, and also it's a cutscene exclusive piece, but it doesn't even play through the whole cutscene. And I'm also excluding the mysterious Q2, which is a piece of music embedded into the resources of the game, but which doesn't actually appear anywhere in the game itself. But enough introductions, let's get on with the ranking. At rank 14, it's the church theme. So this is a piece of music that plays really in 2 places in the game, and it's really the only piece of music from the soundtrack that I will say I actually don't really like. So you can just go into the church during normal gameplay, but then of course it starts playing in the final part of the game when LeChuck is trying to forcefully marry Elaine at the Melee Island church. And this is one of 2 pieces of music in the soundtrack that really doesn't sound very Monkey Island-ish. It sounds very dark, forceful, kind of unpleasant, and that's kind of intentional. It's supposed to be like a ghost wedding, but I just don't really like this piece of music that much. Whenever I accidentally went into the church during the early parts of the game, it always struck me just how dramatic that music is, and it felt very weird just going from the quiet of Melee Island Town into the church theme. I guess it fits the scene, sort of, even though it kind of turns farcical towards the end, but it's just not a very good piece of music, and that's the reason it bottoms out the ranking altogether. At rank 13, it's Setting Off on the Ship, which is the theme, which plays at the beginning of part 2 when Guybrush is trying to get his crew to do chores around the ship, and they all decide not to. It's a very quiet, simple piece. It does have that nice Monkey Island Caribbean vibe to it, which is why I like it a lot better than the church theme, but it really does not have a lot of character, and I barely remember it even being on the soundtrack, which is the reason I decided let's just chuck it at this second lowest rank. And let's move on. At rank number 12, it's the Fettuccine Brothers Circus. Now, this is the second piece of music off this soundtrack that really does not sound very Monkey Island-ish. I think it kind of betrays that this is the first soundtrack of the series because it has these pieces of music that are very off-kilter for the soundtrack. But at the same time, I do think the Fettuccine Brothers Circus theme does fit very well into the singular location where it's featured, which is the circus, where Guybrush gets shot out of a cannon. It's a fun piece of music. I especially love the little whistles in the midst of the music, and has this nice, playful, very circus-y kind of feeling. I do like the fact that it is an original composition. They could have very easily gone with the circus afro stock music piece that you tend to hear in these kinds of scenarios. It puts me in a good mood, and that's more than I can say for the other pieces that I've mentioned before. But like I said, it just doesn't feel very Monkey Island-ish. It always does sound a little out of place, so that's why it got pretty low on the ranking. At number 11, it's the prison/forest theme. So this is the piece of music that plays in the prison cells when you go talk to Otis, and it's also the piece of music that plays in the Melee Island forest and when you're following the shopkeeper when you're trying to find the Swordmaster. It's a very nice, low-key, kind of a detective-sounding piece of music, but it does have a little bit of the steel drums put in, so it also does feel very Monkey Island-ish. It has a nice, mysterious vibe to it, and that's what I really like about it. It gives it a lot more character, and it's also a lot more in line with the rest of the soundtrack than the first 3 songs that I discussed. Having said that, it is so low-key though, and the melody isn't particularly memorable, which is why I really could not have it in the top 10. But it is a very recognizable piece of music from this game. At number 10, it's the Cannibal Village. This is one of 2 songs on the soundtrack that is heavily driven by percussion, but it also has that very sharp pan whistle in there, which I actually really like. The piece, of course, plays in the Cannibal Village on Monkey Island, and I guess it's a bit of a shame that it doesn't really play in any of the other locations. It really does give you that powerful jungle vibe to it, especially considering that the conversation you have with the cannibals is just so silly. But at the same time, I will say this one also doesn't really have any outstanding melodic parts, and that's really the only reason I had to put it at the lowest rank in the top 10. It is a very recognizable piece of music, and I do like listening to it. But it just does not do a lot for me. At rank number 9, it's Stan's previously used ships. Now, an important note I have to say right here is that this is not the Stan's theme that plays in literally all the other Monkey Island games. That version of the Stan theme was introduced in the second game with Stan's previously used coffins. So this is a first very original take on the Stan theme, and again, this is a piece of music that maybe doesn't quite fit the overall vibe of the Monkey Island soundtrack, but at the same time, it is one of my favorite pieces of music from the game. It's very swanky, and I do think it really fits the gaudy image of Stan, who in this very first game is literally just the Monkey Island version of a sleazy used car salesman. There's a lot of brass here, there's a lot of layers to this song. It plays for a very considerable amount of time, and that's very good because the point at which where you will be hearing this song the most, of course, is when you're bargaining with Stan for the sea monkey. So it's very good that there's all those different layers in the brass section, so that this song does not begin to drone on you, because that dialogue sequence does take an awfully long time to play out. At the same time, I can definitely see why in the subsequent games they kept reusing the stance theme from the second game as opposed to this one. The second game's theme just has a much more recognizable melody section, whereas this one is just a little too laid back and swanky. Which is kind of odd because I think if there's one flaw in the Secret of Monkey Island soundtrack is that a lot of the songs are very forceful, even to their own detriment. At number 8, it's the Melee Island map theme. So this is the theme that plays when, of course, you're on the Melee Island map, and the part where you will probably be hearing this theme the most is when you're doing the insult sword fighting and trying to encounter pirates. It's a very nice, cheery piece of music. It really has that Monkey Island vibe, and especially that Monkey Island clop, that same tempo you hear in a lot of Monkey Island songs. And I think it's a much more distinct melody than the setting off on ship theme that I mentioned earlier. I guess my biggest gripe with this particular piece of music is that, especially during the sword fighting parts, you will probably not get to hear it for very long unless the different pirates are just taking an awfully long time to spawn, and if they're on the other side of the map, then you'll be kind of running around. It's unfortunately the kind of piece of music that where you really hear the first few bars constantly if you're going between locations that aren't that far apart from each other. So it's not my favorite of the map themes on this one, but it is a really good piece of music nonetheless. At number 7, it's the Monkey Island map theme. So the Cannibal Village is pretty good, but if there is one really cool piece of percussion-heavy music in the Monkey Island soundtrack, it is absolutely the Monkey Island map theme. I just love the flutes in this part, but as much as the flute melody is very recognizable, the percussion is really the star. Especially the further you stay on the map screen, the further the melody gets, those drum sounds just get very crazy, very creative, and I just love it. This is easily my favorite map theme from any of the other Monkey Island games because I don't think they really put this much effort into any of the other themes. In fact, I like this map theme so much that I think at times I just decided not to go to any of the other locations just because I wanted to hear as much of the map theme as possible. The part where you definitely will hear it for a very long time is when you finally get the oars for the rowboat and you finally make it to the north side of the island. That's when this piece really gets to play out the longest without getting interrupted. And I kind of wish they would have used it more in different locations. You do hear it at the Monkey Head, I think. But yeah, it's just a really, really good piece of music. At rank number 6, it's Elaine's theme, aka the romance theme. So this is the piece of music that plays in a lot of the cutscenes that have Elaine in them, and it also plays during the finale. And this is also the first of the themes on this ranking that did get reused in subsequent games. And I think it's kind of a shame that this sort of became Elaine's theme song because it's supposed to be a very intentionally schmaltzy and sort of over-dramatically romantic piece of music. It even has that ridiculous string section that kicks it off. But considering what a badass Elaine really is, it's kind of a shame that her theme song doesn't have a little bit more oomph to it. I do like the melody section once the introduction is done with. That part is kind of nice, and I really like that laid-back melody that plays throughout the rest of the song. And I also do think it fits the finale very well, but I just couldn't have it in the top 5. As iconic of a song as it is, I just kind of wish Elaine had a second theme song that wasn't so romantic and schmaltzy. At number 5, it's the theme from the first cutscene where we meet Guybrush and the Lookout. Now this I would describe as the most iconic piece of Monkey Island music that appears in literally none of the other games. That really innocent, fun little riff on the xylophones just fits the scene so perfectly. The innocence at which Guybrush just introduces himself and his intention in this game is just perfect. Every time I hear this piece of music, it just puts me in a good mood because I know I'm about to play some Monkey Island. But it is also a piece of music that only plays during this first cutscene, so I couldn't have it any higher, but I like this song way more than Elaine's theme, which is the reason why it squeezed its way into the top 5. At number 4, it's the Scumbar theme. So directly after the first cutscene theme, this is the piece of music that most people will hear, and this is also the piece of music that you will probably be listening to for the longest before you get to the Melee Island map, because you do spend an awful long time in the Scumbar talking to the different pirates. It's a really fun piece of music, and it really kicks up the mood immediately from the beginning. It has that nice piratey vibe to it. However, this is also one of those themes where I do think the forceful sound of the Roland MT32 sound synthesizer maybe works slightly against it. The melody is just a little bit too forceful. I kind of prefer the more laid-back approach they had in the special edition version that Jesse Harlan did. But I suppose if you want to see it that the bar is just full of pirates who are having fun, I guess the sort of party atmosphere works for it, because of course this theme doesn't play when you come back to the Scum Bar after LeChuck kidnaps Elaine and all the pirates have left. At number 3, it's the Voodoo theme. So this is the very early rough version of the Voodoo Ladies theme song, so technically this song does appear in the subsequent games. However, once again, the composition is slightly different in the second game, where it was a lot more jazzy and laid back, and all the subsequent reiterations of this melody tend to use the more laid-back version from Monkey Island 2 rather than this one. In fact, the contrast in the melodies is so strong, in fact, that I was under the impression for the longest time that they were actually two different songs. But no, this actually is the same melody. It's just that those brass hits, for instance, happen at slightly different points in the Monkey Island 2 version. It's very interesting, and I do recommend checking out that second version, which is the House of Mojo theme from the second game. At the same time, I do like this version of the Voodoo theme. It is a lot more forceful. It makes the Voodoo Lady shop a lot creepier and more foreboding. It has that mysterious, forceful energy, and that's why I think it works so well. At number 2, it's LeChuck's theme. This is easily the second most recognizable recurring theme in the entire Monkey Island series, except for the title theme, which of course I excluded. The LeChuck theme has a nice, spooky energy. It is, of course, the theme song of a ghost pirate, but it also has this kind of a goofy energy to it, which I think also fits LeChuck because he is a slightly cartoony, over-the-top villain. And here's a fun fact, the main bars of this, of course, were reused for the song A Pirate I Was Meant to Be in The Curse of Monkey Island.
A pirate I was meant to be, trim the sails and roam the sea.
And now you will never be able to unhear that. LeChuck theme just hits you with like the best possible melody parts right from the get-go, and then it's just a fun march all the way to the end. However, I do have to say that there are key changes part of the way through the song, so it's not just a one-note leitmotif in that sense. And one great thing is that in the subsequent games, already in Monkey Island 2, they started doing mutations on the melody where they played it super slow to make it extra sinister. Rank number 1 is the Ghost Ship theme. Now, this has got to be one of the best and I think the most criminally underrated pieces of Monkey Island music, and unfortunately it's only because it only plays during this one scene on the ghost ship. It's annoying that the music stops immediately when you go below deck or into LeChuck's chambers, because it's a very long, very substantial piece of composition. It goes through all these dramatic shifts towards the end, and it is a really, really cool piece of music. I kinda wish they would have used this in a few of the cutscenes with LeChuck. And as if this piece of music wasn't cool enough on its own, in the special edition, Peter McConnell actually recorded an entirely new violin solo for it, which was pretty awesome. So yeah, it is not a piece of music that you hear in the game a lot, but this is also one of those parts, just like with the Monkey Island map theme, where I would just stand around on the ghost ship deck listening to this song because I thought it was so good. So just as a refresher, here's the ranking one more time for all of you. Tell me, what are your favorite pieces of music from The Secret of Monkey Island? I'm TheHande. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.